Those of you who've been listening to the talks for the last few weeks, I'm sure you're aware that they have had a heavy aspect. And in many ways reflect, I keep using the word narrative, but the narrative of my life. And the last 2 weeks have been particularly difficult, painful. And I would like to talk about them in light of the spiritual dynamic, the life we live, or are trying to live. Because I think it's relevant. I think many people want a spiritual life because they think it will give them something that protects them from the world. Somehow people feel if they meditate, they will get what they want, that life will deliver. And, it's pretty obvious from all of you who've done this that that's not true. It does not change the story of your life. It changes, if anything, how you are able to live your life in relationship to what happens. It doesn't change what happens. So, my story, and of course, anyone who's been following these talks for the last couple of years knows that a lot of my story has been very invested in, the musical that I've been working on, and it has been a level of involvement and investment that is kind of more full-bodied, if you will, complete as a part of my life than anything I've done before. I put everything, really everything, time, energy, creativity, expectation, hope, dreams, all of that stuff into the musical, and created, with the help of a multitude of people, something I'm very, very proud of and really enjoy dramatically. And it's had a life, it had a life in England and still running in England, and it opened here on Broadway not that long ago, and got pretty devastating reviews from particularly the New York Times. And of course, in the realm of theater, critics' reviews are very powerful, and this particular review was very devastating, and ultimately the show could not recover from it. And so, as I announced to the class, the show is closing in 2 weeks. And the closing of the show for me was so painful, so humiliating, so shameful, so frustrating, and also on many levels I would say unjust. I think actually that the critic for the Times didn't get the show or like the show for probably a million different reasons, and they're all meaningless at this point. But what's important is that circumstance outside of my control has completely co-opted, if you will, a dream that I had. And it's really sad. It's really sad to watch it go. And the experience of sadness and anger that accompanied it were very strong. And I'll add to it a little bit more that the success of the show in many ways was going to determine much of the future for Blanche and I. So how the world would unfold for us would be in many ways dependent on how successful the show was. And the sudden collapse of the show on Broadway indicated to me that we had to make some very rapid and immediate changes, and one of them involved putting this house on the market and selling our home of the last 14 years here, or selling the Los Angeles home. Anyway, what it did was it said you have to dramatically alter the life that you've been living for a long time, and in a way that was totally unexpected. I mean, I had no idea that things were going to change like that. But Rudy always said, life turns on a dime. There's even a song in the musical, Life Turns on a Dime, from Rudy's statement. And I've been talking about it for the last few weeks because I saw it coming, I saw it approaching, and then it went, boom, it happened. And the result of it happening is a really powerful experience, and part of that experience was that I got really fearful and really depressed. So being fearful and depressed in the middle of what you would call a spiritual life doesn't feel like a very good sign. It's not. It feels like what I would call spiritual failure, that somehow or another I couldn't get out of this sense of I had been unjustly judged by one person, and that one person had this profound effect on a show that people still to this day stand and applaud and cheer and really seem to love in the auditorium. So I couldn't figure out what I guess is the cognitive dissonance of that, how one person's power overwhelms the power of an audience. And of course in the movie that didn't happen. The movie, by the way, was also very badly reviewed, but lots of people came, but they came at the $5 ticket price as opposed to a $137 ticket price, which is something where you pay a lot more attention to critics. So now, having said all of this, and I don't really mean this to get too much to be about Ghost or to be about my particular struggle, I want to really talk about the power of life and the power of spiritual work. Because this is the most powerful and the most difficult experience that I recall. It's sort of like losing a child on some level. Thank God I haven't had to deal with that. But this had that aspect to it. And I really felt that all of my years and years of spiritual surrender and practice and awakening, if you will, hadn't really come into play. And I felt really terrible about it. But also I knew I had to live it out. I had to live through this thing that was going on. And I would literally wake up in the middle of the night with such sadness and such anger and such weight. And so what I would do, and this is where spiritual work comes into play, I would enter it. Rather than run from it, rather than try to pretend it wasn't there or wish it away or go into magical thinking or all the things that one can do with difficult situations, I just stared at it. I just went deeper and deeper into the sadness, deeper into the injustice, if you will, deeper into the fear, and just tried to live with it, tried to be with it. And I will call what I did process. And processing life is really something we all have to do because it throws a lot of stuff at us. And our capacity for process is variable. Some of us process things very readily. Some of us take years or even a lifetime, or some people would say multiple lifetimes, to process things that were done to you. I really wasn't sure how I was going to get past what I was experiencing. And a number of interesting things happened. One of them is that the man with whom I was sitting when my awakening took place called me out of the blue and wanted to come see me. It's a little bit like a visitation from the Almighty on some level. It's really not that, obviously. This guy is, he's wonderful, but he's not the Almighty. But he is definitely a connector to the core of my own sense of presence. And so he arrived here, and we just sat. We had lunch, we talked, it was very sweet. I felt blessed and grateful, and then he left, and nothing changed. I was still going through my process. But I realized that something was reaching for me. Something was reaching for me. It was coming to help, and I didn't know how to take advantage of that help. I didn't know exactly what to do other than to be grateful it arrived. But it did help. It did help because it reminded me, I am present. I am that. I am still here, which was wonderful. But I'll tell you what really helped. And it's interesting, because life is what's in front of you, honestly. That's all there is. Process is how you relate to what's in front of you. And the next thing that emerged in my life was called the Olympics. And the Olympics has a powerful effect on me every 4 years. I am completely sucked up into the Olympics because it represents real life and the drama of real life better than anything I have ever watched. And so I sat and watched all of these kids, young people, do battle with everything around them. The fight for the gold, if you will. The fight for the moment that you wanted your whole life. You worked for your whole life. Of course, some of these kids are 15 or 16 years old and said, I wanted this my whole life. I go, come on. What's that mean, 7 years? Or whatever it is. But you watch their struggle and you watch their grace or lack of grace. You watch their emotion. The guys who don't get what they want or who blow it right in front of your eyes, and a lot of them did. You watch it and they are going to live with this moment for the rest of their life. They're going to live with the gold, or they're going to live with the lack of gold. They're going to live with the stupid fact that they couldn't get the landing, that they lost by 1/100th of a percentage point, and their whole life was less than what it might have been. You watch this, and you look at your own life, and you go, what am I dealing with here? It's every human being on the planet struggles to get what they want. Some people work harder than anybody can imagine at the Olympics to get this, and it happens or it doesn't happen. But whatever happens, whether it is just or unjust, becomes the content of your story. It becomes the thing you have to work with, you have to live with. And how fast you process it means everything. And what a lot of these kids did, who lost in one race, had to then do another race. And those who could put this loss behind them, which is a big deal, that's process. It can be just compartmentalize, it can be truly let it go. It can be this thing of saying, not now, I'll deal with it later. But a lot of them just moved on. They moved on with such control and such inner presence. And very few of them have a word for it. I think very few understand or are able to say what it is they're doing when they perform. But if you watch them closely from any kind of spiritual perspective, you watch how they collect themselves. You watch the arriving at the moment where they can perform, where they can do the thing they need to do. You watch how they arrive at that place, and it's beautiful. And you watch the ones who don't arrive at that place. You watch the ones who aren't ready for the moment, who just the buzzer goes off and they gotta go. But the ones who arrive teach me a lot. And I watch how they do it. And I know that they don't know what they're doing exactly. Perhaps they don't have the cognitive, mindful sort of interpretation of what they're doing, but they're doing it. They are preparing, they're being present, and then it happens. And whatever happens, they are allowing it to happen. They're not fighting it. They are participating with it with every ounce of energy in their body. And if they win or lose, they know they were one with the moment. They were one with it. Every one of those guys fed me. Every one of them that I watched and up through last night. They just kept giving me this is how you live. This is life. It goes like that. It happens this way, it happens that way. Whatever it is, it's the story you're going to live with. And you can live with it in a state of grace or not. The state of grace that delivered more than anything, from my perspective, were the guys who said, I was in the Olympics. It doesn't matter if I won gold, silver, bronze, or nothing. I was here. I was in the Olympics. I was in the game. And they exhibit a kind of pride about that and a kind of joy about it that is amazing. And so I told myself, I was on Broadway. You know, that was a dream of my life on some level. Since I was little, I never imagined how it could happen, but I was there. And that started to really filter through the system, that something really had occurred. And then it went to a whole other level, which was, it was kind of a past tense thing, but it's become present. I have been in the world. I have been here. I have been alive. I have been in this game of life. Not that I was in the Olympics or on Broadway or anywhere. I was alive. Or even, as I say, I am alive. I'm here now. I am in this amazing game, if you will. I'm part of this. And it's happening right now. And whether I get the gold, the silver, the bronze, or nothing, I'm here. And it's an amazing thing to be here. It's an amazing thing to have been in this. And if you want to put it in the terms of the Olympics, I forget the actual numbers, but there were 200 million sperm racing to your mother's egg to be here. There were 200 million and you won. So every one of you is already gold. Every one of you arrived in this enormous setting to live this thing out. And you're all going to have things that happen which are going to be full of big moments and not such big moments, full of joy and not joy. You're going to win things, you're going to lose things, but you're going to have a life. You're going to have a life. Or in truth, you are having a life. And you're in it as we speak. And it's a very limited duration. You know, I've had extraordinary moments. I've had peak moments. You know, I mean, for me, winning the Oscar was a peak moment in my life. It's a little bit, I guess, like winning gold or the Super Bowl or whatever that thing is. So I've come away from that with a very interesting piece of knowledge, that the moment itself when you win is just another moment. It's full of adrenaline and kind of an amazing, wow, a feeling of things have changed, that suddenly there's another something amplifying or modifying your life, a title or an award. And then the next day happens. You know, you take that statue or those gold medals or whatever it is, and you put them somewhere. You can put them on, I put the Oscar when I came home on the dresser or on the nightstand next to me, and it's been there for, you know, 22 years. A lot of these guys take their medals, some put them in a frame, some put them in the drawer, you know. And it's really, it fades. It's not that it's gone, but the moment was just a moment. It's just a moment. It's a wonderful moment. You can look back on it as going, wow, that was great. But it doesn't change the moment you're in. I mean, the fact that I had a show close, or have a show closing in 2 weeks, looking at that Oscar and saying that happened does not change the sadness. It does not change the anger, if you will. It's all there. Winning is a wonderful thing, but it's as much a part of life as losing. And they all happen. It all happens. And ultimately, it all is taken away. And that's the big lesson. It's all taken away. And if you can't give it away, then it really is taken. So Blanche and I have started this process of dealing with giving up this very nice house and everything that's in it. And what are we going to do with it? And we're also talking about getting rid of the house in LA. And boy, it brings up everything. You know, what about all your boxes of mementos that go back to high school? You know, do you keep shipping them around from house to house? What about all those books and all the stuff you have, the stuff of your life? What do you do with all this stuff? Well, my kids have said to me from day one, don't make us the ones who have to dispose of your stuff. We don't want to do that. You take care of your stuff. And you don't even realize how much stuff you have to deal with until you look around. And I'll tell you one lesson. If you want one big spiritual lesson that should be with you for the rest of your life, don't ever buy 2 houses. That's a very big lesson, and it's very valuable lesson, trust me. Because then you just have to deal with even more stuff to let go of, and the amounts of attachment that come up are really powerful. And you have to learn how to detach from everything. But here's the advantage of a spiritual life. Blanche and I have been practicing this our whole life. The incredible experience of what took place in the loss of my musical on Broadway, the sadness and the anger has, I will say completely, but maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like completely dissipated. I've processed it, or it's processed itself. It has worked its way through the system. It did it in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for me is an achievement, because when I had a film that I had worked on many years ago that didn't do well, it took me 9 months to work through the sadness and the depression. So 2 weeks is a sign of some real kind of achievement. And Rudy said this early on. He said, what takes you 6 years at one point will start taking you 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 hours, 6 minutes, 6 seconds. Well, I'm not at the 6 seconds yet, but I am processing stuff very, very quickly, and I'm able to move on. And I'm able to move on because I have been working spiritually for many, many, many years. And that's the help. It doesn't free you of the stuff, it just helps you process the stuff. It helps you work through it. It helps you let go, let go, let go, let go. Done. Onward. Not that it doesn't sneak back in, we all know that. It all sneaks back in, but then you just do your thing. You work it through. So, anyway, we're all here in the world. We are all going to experience really big things. Some of them are going to be really tough, really tough. Some of them are going to be sweet and beautiful and wonderful, and some are going to be really dark and ugly. It's the totality of this experience of being human that's so amazing. And you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss the extremities. I don't want to miss them. I'm grateful to have had them because I can now really, really appreciate what everybody else is going through. I really appreciate it because I'm touching all of the heights and the lows of human experience. It's really amazing. And the other day, Blanche and I were driving somewhere, and there was a huge accident just moments ahead of us, and it was horrible, horrible accident. And had we left the house a minute earlier, it would have been us. We were going right through the intersection where this horrible thing was about to take place, or had just taken place. And it just reminded me, all of the story, all of the drama, all of your stuff, whatever it is, it goes. It goes. It goes fast. It could have been us. It will be us one day. In one way or another, it will be every one of us. So, time is fleeting. You're here. You may not have gold to go after at this point in any dramatic, televised way, but find the gold, or the silver, or the bronze, or just find the joy of participating in this life that you have, because you have it right now. And I know this is like pure cliche, everything I'm saying is pure cliche, but trust me, this is it. This is your time. This is your time. Be proud to be here and live it up. Enjoy it, drink it in, have fun, and be grateful.